everybody. First off, this is my opinion. People can have different opinions. And we're going worst to best, counting from 10 to 1. Also, all of these shows were good. I'm not saying that any of them were bad. We have number 10, Double or Nothing 2021. In my opinion, this is the worst pay-per-view AEW had, because all of the matches weren't on the same level as the other pay-per-views. Most of the matches were average. Best match on the show for me was Britt Baker versus Hikaru Shida. The other matches to me weren't the best. Moxley and Kingston versus the Young Bucks wasn't bad. Kenny Omega versus Orange Cassidy versus Pac kinda seemed like more of a laughingstock than an actual good main event match. Number 9. Cool screen effect or something. All Out 2020. Once again, the show wasn't bad. It just didn't have a lot of great matches like the other shows on this list. Like the shows with Hangman and Kenny versus the Young Bucks and other great matches are too good for this show. This show had a lot of decent matches at the start, but it had a few great matches, like Moxley versus MJF or Hikaru Shida versus Thunder Rosa. But I would say most of the matches wasn't as outstanding as the other show's matches. There was Matt Hardy versus Sammy Guevara, with the tagline that Matt Hardy lost here to retire, which wasn't the best, not bad. And the Mimosa Mayhem match was way too horny for me. Number 8? I don't know. Full Gear 2020. This show was decent. It had great matches in it like Moxley versus Kingston and the Bucks versus FTR. Also, Kenny and Hangman fighting told a great story. But there were a lot of matches that were good but not great, like MJF versus Chris Jericho. Darby Allin versus Cody had one problem with me. This wasn't on TNT. Why was it defended? Why was the title defended? TNT title. Number 7.
Fun fact, this was the first pay-per-view I didn't go to live.
Full Gear 2019. This show was great in a sense because it had so many good matches like Kenny Omega versus Jon Moxley, the Lights Out match, and Cody versus Jericho with that statement. And Proud and Powerful versus the Young Bucks was a great match. Overall, this match had all of the matches being good. Number 6, Double or Nothing 2020. This show had several great matches, like the Stadium Stampede or the ladder match, or Hikaru Shida versus Nyla Rose. The Stadium Stampede was a bit too crazy though, because 10 people were fighting around the stadium. I also had a problem that Brian Cage immediately got a real title shot. He might be big and tough, but he just came to the company and the people who hadn't seen him before need to watch him wrestle. And Hikaru Shida versus Nyla Rose was a great match in the whole sense of it. Okay, time to stop doing the, I don't know what was I. Number 5, Revolution 2021. I know everybody hates this show, but it had really good matches. For me, the wrestling saved this show because all the matches were great in wrestling. Maybe not story, but great in wrestling. The Matt Hardy versus Hangman Page match for the quarter earnings wasn't the best in story at all, but it was great in match. And now it's time for the most infamous match in AEW history, the Exploding Barbed Wire Death Match. Oh no! It was good in the match itself, but the ending was what everybody hates. But I think it was good, because you had Eddie Kingston trying to cover Moxley up, trying to save his friend's life. I know everybody hates the sparklers, but if you want Moxley to die or something, because that's what you want, you're not good. Next, number 4, Revolution 2020. Okay, this show is just great. Where do I start? Tag team match between Kenny Omega and Hangman Page versus the Young Bucks. I can't explain how good that match was. You have to watch it, or watched it, to know how good it was. Next is Cody versus MJF. Match had great storytelling and great wrestling. Next was Jon Moxley and Chris Jericho. It was crazy. I loved it because my favorite wrestler won the world title. In general, this show was just great. Number 3. All Out 2019. This is probably just nostalgia, but I think this was a great pay-per-view. The matches were great, like Pac versus Kenny Omega. They put on a great match. Also, the Cracker Barrel Clash was better than I thought it would be. A lot of people probably thought the same. Riho versus Hikaru Shida was great. Sean Spears versus Cody was just great everything. It was great from the whole build, from Fight for the Fallen to this show. Great. And the ladder match between Young Bucks and Lucha Brothers were great. And the match between Hangman and Jericho was great story-wise and match-wise. Number 2. Second best pay-per-view, in my opinion. Double or Nothing 2019. Double or Nothing 2019 was the first ever All Elite Wrestling pay-per-view. I think it's probably one of the best because we had the Battle Royale, which Hangman won, which led to the great match between Hangman versus Jericho. And then we had Britt Baker versus Nyla Rose versus Kylie Ray versus Awesome Kong. I love how they had Awesome Kong be a surprise. Then we had Cody versus Dustin. The only match that could possibly be better than Young Bucks versus Hangman and Kenny. And then we had the Young Bucks versus the Lucha Brothers. They put on a great match anytime they wrestle. Instant 5-star. And then Chris Jericho versus Kenny Omega. Great match. Cherry on top. Jon Moxley coming out
And beating up both Kenny Omega and Jericho.
Number 1. Confetti goes everywhere, I guess. All Out 2021. Everybody knew this. It happened just maybe a month ago. So I'm just going to say all the matches in my memory. Miro versus Eddie Kingston. Great in wrestling. The build for it wasn't as huge as a lot of the other matches on this card, but it was still a great match. Moxley versus Kojima. Great match, and Suzuki came out at the end, which really made that match good. Britt Baker versus Chris Statlander was a great match. Lucha Brothers versus the Young Bucks in a steel cage. Where do I start? Where do I start? It was great, just in general. And then we had Ruby Soho winning the Battle Royale. A huge surprise. Everybody loved it in the stadium. Then we had Chris Jericho versus MJF. I don't care what anybody tells me. The MJF's entrance was great. Then we had CM Punk versus Darby Allin. Great match. Paul White versus QT Marshall. Very short, so I couldn't really tell if it was great or bad. Then we had Christian Cage versus Kenny Omega. Great match. And then the crowd exploding for Adam Cole. Then he super kicks Jungle Boy. Then Bryan Danielson comes out right at the very end. It was great. That was it. Time to copy Kenny Omega. Good day and good night. Bang!